So tell us about the old Carraholly course.
Well, the old Carraholly course was a very boggy old piece of land, and the greens were about the only part of it that were of any quality. But if you drove your ball down the fairway, it could very easily disappear in wet weather.
In wet weather, yeah.
In wet weather, yes, and parts of the course used to flood. But we had great fun in it, and there was a great spirit of clubness in Carraholly. The little clubhouse was the venue for many a celebration, like Captain's Day, and it would go on into the night, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, no bother.
So you were the last captain?
No, I wasn't. Philip McLaughlin was my vice captain, so he was captain in 1970. Yes. I forget now who was 1971 and 72. But
and were there many members in that club that time?
There would have been. We used to say there were the 12 apostles, but they were all bank managers or doctors,
It was kind of exclusive, was it? People weren't playing golf.
They weren't.
They weren't playing golf. Yeah.
But then there was a pitch and putt course out at Rossbeg, and it acted as a nursery, and most of our good golfers came through that and joined the golf club then, and became some of them became very prominent golfers.
And who had the pitch and putt course?
I can't remember. I can't remember that so long ago.
Around Clark's house, was it?
Clark's, was it Clark's?
Was it around Clark's house?
I think it was. It was, yes.
Might have been right.
Yes. And I suppose one of the best known golfers out of it would have been Perry O'Reilly. He started there and went on to become a winner of a Junior Cup medal with Westport Golf Club later.
Okay. And what was the clubhouse like down in Carraholly that time? It was a shed, really, was it?
No, not a shed. No. It was a tin, all right, a corrugated tin, but had a wooden floor and had a little locker room and had a little dispense bar. And we had dances in it, and we had, on an occasion like a captain's prize, the ladies' committee would fry up bacon and egg and sausage, and you'd get this smell wafting down the course over the 9th hole. When you came in, then the meal was served, and then the serious business of dancing and drinking. But it was a very enjoyable time, old Carraholly.
And who were the members that you can remember who were there that time?
Well, the person who introduced me to it was John Kelly, and John of the Octagon, and I went into John one day, and he on business before I was married, before I came down to Westport, and he said to me, "Do you play golf?" I said, "Well, I do after a fashion." And he said, "Have you a pound?" And this now would have been February or March of the year, and I said, "I will be coming down in July." And he took the pound from me, a pound note, and he said, "You're now a paid up member until the AGM at Christmas." And that was the beginning of it. But there were John Kelly and Maurice Malloy and Mick King and Father Tobin, and if I had no, I can't remember too many more people.
Was Sean Tobin there?
Sean Tobin was subsequently. Sean came in at the end of Carraholly as secretary, and the transfer over to the new club, he was largely responsible for introducing systems and rules and regulations, the whole thing.
Was Jerry McAleer down there?
Oh, Jerry McAleer was a very prominent member. Very prominent.
He's very prominent, wherever he is.
Well, he was a very prominent member, and was a member on most of the teams. And
good player.
Oh, good player. Oh, yes,
player,
he would have been in the top 3 or top 4 in the club.
In the club, okay.
And Tony Joyce, local man. Tony was probably the best golfer in Old Carraholly. And is still a golfer of some consequence.
So then you moved up to the new course?
Moved up to the new course in 1973.
Who designed it?
Hawtrey, a famous company, a British company, and they I'm trying to tell you now, trying to think of who. Jiggins was the man that came over.
Supervised it.
Supervised it, exactly. And it was built by, I think, a Waterford company. There were a lot of mistakes made, a lot of shortcuts taken in the drainage and things like that, which we had to make right in subsequent years at great cost.
Oh, it took time, didn't it? Took a lot of time.
Took a lot of time. Yes.
There's a lot of land in there, isn't there?
There is a lot of land. You could have 2 golf courses in the land that we have there, but some of the land we harvest hay from it, and it contributes to some extent to the running of the place. But you could have another golf course with the land.
So Lord Sligo was the main instigator of that course. He was that site.
Lord Sligo. It was his idea to construct a golf course, and he couldn't get any official backing for it financially, so he couldn't afford to do it himself, and he sold the land and the plan and the lock, stock and barrel to Bord Fáilte, who are responsible for the Westport Golf Club being where it is today.
Yeah.
Now, subsequently,
there was a local collection, wasn't there, at the time? There was a contribution.
There was a local contribution, and it didn't amount to a lot. I think about 30,000.
30,000 was the figure.
30,000, and we didn't quite make the 30,000. But it was. I don't like to think back on those days because it was difficult trying to collect money. Trying to run things like what did we call it? A pool, every weekly pool, and I was in charge of it for 2 or 3 years. Where on a Saturday night I had to go down and put all the tickets and all the names into the drum and rotate it and draw out the first 5 or 6 names. But it produced a lot of the local contribution.
That was good, yeah. So, I mean, it has a huge impact on the town, isn't it? The golf course.
Well,
and club.
When the club opened, the town became a beneficiary from the existence of the golf club. But that has inverted now, and the golf club now benefits from Westport being such an attractive place to visit, and people come to visit Westport and play golf as well.
So it worked 2 ways.
Yes.
Win-win, as they say nowadays. Yeah. So you've enjoyed golf. You were captain, and you were president. Were you president?
I was president. I was president in 2009. And I was captain in 1969. It seems like it's a long time ago.
And who was your vice captain?
A man called Philip McLaughlin. He was a company quartermaster sergeant in the army, and a man like Sean Tobin, who was a stickler for rules and regulations and introducing the right norms into the running of a golf club.
And who was the president at that time?
Bertie Stanton was the president for about 25 years, and I think he when he was about perhaps 75 or 80, he said it's time for me to move on, and I forget now who the next president in it. I think it was Liam Golden was the next, who was one of the prominent golfers too that I should have mentioned, Liam Golden.
Who would you consider the best golfers to come out of Westport? Apart from yourself.
It's hard to say. There are golfers down there now that are so good. There's young Sam Gillivan, and he's only 15 or 16 years of age, if he is even that, and he's playing off a handicap of 2. So you'll hear a lot more about Sam Gillivan and his friends. And naturally, a golf club of the quality of Westport is going to produce golfers. Golfers couldn't come from the old Caraholly because it wasn't a golf course of any consequence.
Of course, the numbers playing are a lot bigger now than they used to be.
They are. I think we have about 600 or 700 members now, between ladies and gents, and the place is a pleasure to visit.
You were involved around the time of the ladies' membership issues. full membership and half memberships.
I was.
What were they like in Carrahally? Were they full members? Or?
No, they were not. They were associates. And
were they happy with that?
They were happy with that. They were. You see, they were preoccupied with things like as important as trying to get a toilet with running water in it, and complaining like that the bar ran out of gin on the night of the vice captain's night on one particular night. So the question of equality didn't arise for several years after that, and when it came, it was a painless transition. And actually, when I was president in 2009, my nomination for my successor was Bridie Hughes, and she was the first lady president in Westport Golf Club.
But they had full membership before that for a few years before.
They had full. Oh yes, they were full members.
Full members, right.
Yes. Mind you, there were a few people muttering the night that I proposed Bridie Hughes as president. There were a few people muttering in the front row, saying it would never happen in their day.
There was a bit of opposition to it, there was?
Not really.
Not really.
No,
was it a bit of fun?
Just a bit of yes.
Yeah.
Like thinking more in keeping with 1950 than the year 2009.